I had a calling. You know, this is how you become a reverend. You have to have a calling. It happens that way. I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, and the thing that really showed up was being a minister. And I came from a Catholic background. I had no idea what that meant. With a Catholic background, I couldn't figure that out. But I found the new seminary, and they train people to be interfaith ministers, and that was the thing I decided to do. It sort of fit what I really wanted. I didn't want to be one religion or another. I wanted to be able to explore many religions, and I wanted to be able to reach out to many people. So I did do that program and found it wonderfully helpful, and originally out of that created Wild Women Ministries, which is just a forum for people to express themselves in different ways, spiritually and otherwise.
But how wild is wild, Sandy?
Well, you know, wild is relative. I consider it wild in spirit. You know, in the 20s, I was probably a little more wild in other ways, but you know, we shouldn't talk about that anymore.
Okay.
At least not tonight. At least not. You can Google me and find out about that.
I've interviewed a lot of writers over the years. You're one of the writers, and I believe that everything is copy, according to Nora Ephron. So you have good copy.
You know, there will be a book later at some point. You know, you can read about it. I'll let you know. A couple of years ago, I went to Las Vegas. And what really fascinated me about, I wasn't really that wild in Las Vegas, but I went to Las Vegas. What really intrigued me just about going across country and going to Las Vegas was the idea that you could go to all these different countries, experience these different countries, but not really be there. So there were a lot of tourists that were kind of like, oh, I've been to France, I've been to Italy.
And they saw it through their cameras.
They saw it through their cameras and through this sort of mock version of those things. So it was kind of like you got the sanitized version of these cities without, you know, if you go to Italy, you have to deal with pigeons, right? Like New York, you know, but you could go to New York and Las Vegas and you didn't have to deal with all the other stuff you have to deal with in New York. And when I went back to, and we were talking about this in the Wild Angels, we were talking about the idea of people co-opting your story and that taking your story away from you. So you could go to Las Vegas and have sort of a pseudo idea of being in Italy, but you didn't have your real idea of being in Italy. You didn't have your story of what it was like to be in Italy. So what I was really interested in was creating something that people could reach back and tell their stories. So I actually was laid off, and I have to say Dr. Phil helped me because I was laid off. I was in my PJs. I was a little surprisingly laid off and a little depressed, and Dr. Phil was in the background. And I have a poem that I wrote about this part of Dr. Phil where I, you know, that moment of kind of hallucinating, and Dr. Phil says to me, "Hey, you either can sink or swim. You know, what are you going to do with your life?" So I said, well, I'm laid off. I might as well do what I want to do. And what I did was create an e-course called Writing for Life, Creating a Story of Your Own. And this is an email subscription course, 20 lessons long. And through it, I lead you through different places of your childhood. I lead you through your spiritual experiences, your love experiences, your death experience, you know, all these things that we deal with in life. And through the 20 lessons, I sort of guide you through this. And if you want, you can put this into a book. So if you have great scrapbooking talents, which I don't, but I could create a collage if I had to, you can actually, at the end of 20 lessons, have a wonderful book of your life. And you can add to this book. So your life doesn't end when you write one book. It keeps on going. Hopefully, otherwise we'd have a lot of dead authors.
Because you have people who have gone through this program and who are going through this program.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
How is it running a course virtually for
people? The feedback I get from some people is just really wonderful and touching, because people really start to experience things in their life that they haven't sat down to look at. You know, they really sort of say, you know, oh, I've never thought about healing in this way. I never thought about my life could be healed. Or I've never thought, you know, I've never really considered how my childhood or how my ancestors have affected my life story. And, you know, here they have this opportunity to really sort of, in the comfort of their own home, deal with these experiences, and that feedback from them is really about that opportunity, that people don't really have that opportunity when they're sort of in a culture that says, this is your story, you know, this is how Christians think, this is how, you know, women think, this is how, you know, and you know, this is how women over 40 think, and you're sort of going, well, you know, maybe I think a little differently. And that's what I really want to give to people, is the opportunity to really look at who they are in their lives, too. You know, transition lenses, you know how that goes. I brought one piece because what I wanted to sort of, and you probably won't be able to see this clearly, but I'm going to hold it up anyway. The Wild Angels, we've been doing a series on the body, senses, exploring our bodies. So I wrote a piece that, if you can sort of look at this, that sort of represents the body in
So
a kind of abstract way.
Words shaped in the shape of a body.
What I was really interested in the idea of this poem becoming physical, and this is what I did with it. And this is a relatively short piece, and it goes, compelled to write down the length of my body, tracing memory along my thigh. Thank you. It's a short piece. And for those of you who are very smart, there's actually a grammatical error in here. It's a particular error that it's been published in many places and no one's ever found it until finally after it was published, you know, as I said, many places, somebody said, you know, by the way, there's something really wrong in there. But I'm going to read this to you anyway. The day I was born. On the day I was born, spring was just a good idea. Not a tree had thought further than to catch a snowflake upon a branch. Mother Nature heaved tears upon a grateful earth that such a creature as me was being born. No, that is not right. The sky was a slate gray of swollen, cumulus clouds. No, that is not right either. I really do not know what the weather was like the day I was born. I was too busy contemplating my penis. Yes, I was a girl, but convinced that pulsing thing I had grown so fond of in vitro was indeed my penis. How was I to know it would be the last time I would be so intimately involved with it and my kneecaps? Hanging out in the dark, sucking your thumb, and pondering the next turn in the womb does not prepare you for life. I was 3 or 4 when I stood naked waiting for my bath and realized it was gone. Gone. I asked my mother where it was, and she said, why, it dried up and fell off. Fell off? My trusty companion for 9 months, my playmate, the thing I was counting on to wield power in a manifest environment, had dried up and fallen off? I tell you, nothing prepares you for a shock like that. Nor does it prepare you for 12 years of Catholic school and the joys of the twisted sisterhood of the religious, righteous. My life from grade 1 to 12 was spent running from the taunts of bullies while hanging onto my socks that were always around my ankles and keeping my pointed speckled glasses from falling into the mud before I did. I was 18 when I developed hips and could keep my pantyhose around my waist. On the day I was born, God peered into the waiting womb of my mother and shook his head to see this girl baby contemplating her penis. I think he knew right then and there I was trouble. Years later, I'd grow up to be a wild woman, a wild angel, and crazy about my pet TV, my computer, and a boy named George. But that is another story. I was born with a cleft in my chin. I was told that meant God had put his fingerprint on me. So this is what I think happened. God looked in vitro, saw what was going on, and decided action was needed. He lifted my head back, peered into those baby blues, and said, look, you goofball, what do you think you're doing? Stop mucking around and get the hell out of there. With that, he pushed his finger into my chin and sent me holding onto my penis for dear life down that long tunnel to the light at the other end, his final words ringing in my ear, you go, girl, go and fly.